Guess who's back? Back again. Back with another episode of Pharmacy Benefit Facts in under 15 minutes. And part 4 of our series, Not Your Grandma's Transparency. Today, we are going to dive into the prior authorization process and how even something like this clinical review can be manipulated to work against the best interests of the clients and members and therefore be not so transparent. So, just to set the stage and make sure we are all on the same page here, a prior authorization, or what we will just call a PA, is a security measure that's set in place really just to determine the clinical and financial even efficacy of a drug for any given patient. So working to ensure optimal health and financial outcomes, the prior authorization or PA might be required before a medication can be filled. So this process can and should serve to provide a true clinical review and deliver the right drug at the right price at the right time. However, those non-transparent PBMs out there could use the PA process as a way to generate revenue and help themselves, which is really disgusting when you think about it. So, Lisa G, I would like for you to kind of fill our listeners in on the wrong way to conduct a PA.
Well, there's plenty of wrong to it. So we think of the wrong way as being rubber stamp. So, it's a process. It is in place for optics more than purpose, to say that prior authorization is happening because, prior authorization does give the meaning to people that it's being reviewed for appropriateness, for FDA approved status, for all the right things. That's not always the case. So when you look at different processes, we ask questions. We encourage people to ask questions like we talked about earlier with revenue streams. What's your PA approval rate? That kind of leads you into thinking, what should it be? And, high PA approval rates probably mean there's more rubber stamping than not happening because we know there's a lot of off-label use that's being attempted on a lot of drugs. So it's not all, they're not all going to pass the prior auth process. That's important to consider. When you think about why, again, the majority of PBMs own pharmacies, and pharmacy ownership does mean that I want to fill drugs through my pharmacies. And one way that I can do that is through a PA process. So I review the drug, find out if it's appropriate or not, and then I'm just directing the member onto the pharmacy that I want them to get it filled at. So if I own that pharmacy as a PBM, it's pretty easy to make that connection. So one of the most egregious stories that I've heard is a personal story that a friend shared with me where she was in her doctor's office and they talked about a medication that she needed, and the doctor told her that he was pretty sure there would be need for prior authorization. She said, that's fine, we all expect that. And before she got out to her car, she had a text from her PBM that said the medication had been approved. And I'm pretty sure there probably wasn't a human review involved in that because I don't know that any PBM is staffed to that degree. And also the questionableness of the appropriate use of that drug after she told me what she was going to take and why. So, again, I think there's a lot of noise that is behind the light of prior auth. And again, for optics, we want to give that perception that we're doing these right things for the right reasons. And again, just let me throw in, FDA approved use is important from a stop loss standpoint. Stop loss doesn't necessarily want to pay for off-label use of drugs. So, there's a legitimate purpose behind this process. And you mentioned, the right drug, the right patient, the right time. Those are very important as well. So, all of these issues has revenue generation behind it. It has a lot of, ill reasons behind why you might see this rubber stamp activity happening.
That's it could be a complete disregard of what is right for the patient. If that's not the right drug for them, but your PBM is focused on driving revenue to themselves by they have something to gain by approving those and getting those drugs filled either through their pharmacy or even if it's not through their pharmacy, but they're able to retain the rebate on that. That was where my disgusting comment came from. And you make the point of you don't think there's humans on the other end of that. There's a Cigna right now is under some heat. There's some accusations out there of having AI operations to deny claims. And so there's a lot of funny business going on there. So I think it's really important that we do address this and talk about the right way to operate throughout the prior authorization process. So Chas, I'd love for you to dig into that.
Yeah, before I talk about the right way, I think there's another area in what PBMs are doing with prior authorizations that we failed to mention, and that is they may be denying a prior authorization on a drug and switching that patient to a higher revenue generating drug than to begin with. And that higher revenue could be revenue through their pharmacy, specifically a specialty pharmacy. It could be a higher rebatable drug because they are going to retain those rebates, like you already mentioned. And so it's sometimes it's not even about getting it through and getting it through quickly. It's about changing that drug entirely. Now, patient may still react fine. The patient, is not going to be in any danger, but the price tag has now unnecessarily gone up. So I didn't want to lose that bit as well. So
no, that's a really good different side of the perspective there.
So the right way, obviously, we feel the way TrueScripts does it is the right way, and there's other PBMs that do it the right way as well. So kudos to them. But I think it all starts with having an independent and unbiased third party be your PA vendor, be your PA provider, and that's to really ensure a true clinical review. And they're using independent protocols that have been fully vetted out to ensure that it is the right drug for the right patient and at the right time and at the right price. So we put that process in. It's been going on probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it wasn't because we were doing it wrong to begin with. It's because so many others in the industry was. And so it was the ability for us to just remove one more smudge off of us that the rest of the industry was putting on us. So we do utilize an independent, like I mentioned, unbiased third-party provider. We fully vetted them out, so we know they are outcomes focused. We know because patient access to care should be the primary focus of every single PBM, wrapped quickly with cost containment strategies. So if you have the right vendors in play, the patients are getting their drugs in a timely manner. It is, again, the right drug for them based upon independent clinical protocols and with no undue influence by the PBM. So that's where we sit today.
I think you made a good point there. It wasn't, we could do this. I actually had someone say to me before, so TrueScripts Management Services doesn't manage their own PA process. We could, and we have an in-house team of nurses, pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, just clinical experts in general. We certainly could handle this. However, there, like you said, it could potentially be a way for us to be accused of not being fully transparent. And also working with this third party provider who has vetted out all of the stipulations and processes there. We know that our patients are receiving the best treatment, the best experience. The protocols that are in place are for them. We are not a self-serving entity whatsoever. And I think our commitment to that in general plays a big part into the overall member experience. And even from that PA perspective, you talked about the timely turnarounds on those. We want patients to have access to care at all times. So let's talk a little bit more about the member experience with TrueScripts, primarily what they can expect when going through that PA process, what parameters have we put in place to deliver the ultimate care?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, communication, right? At any point in time, a provider or a patient or even a pharmacy can connect with us to see where we are in the prior authorization process. That was one thing we made very clear to our PA vendor, was that they needed to be integrated into our process, into our system, so our team had full visibility to what was going on and where it was in the process. So access to information is just as important to, that's part of that appropriate patient access to care, the amazing care that we feel that should be delivered to patients. We don't deny PAs without further information, right? So if a drug is denied through the PA process, the why is also provided. There's conversations that happen with the providers, with the patients, and again with the pharmacies. So what members can expect is just that amazing care, amazing communication, meeting that member where they're at. Here's my shameless plug for the fact that we don't just call members, we don't just mail them things, we don't just email them things. We have the ability to chat, we have the ability to text. It's about meeting the members where they're at. If they want to electronically communicate, we can do that in a lot of ways. But if they do want to call in, I promise we're going to answer the phone on the first ring, because that one ring response rate is very important.
Love to plug that in when we can. And I think it is, so much more than a shameless plug. Y'all, last year, our one ring response rate was over 99.5%. That means when members are calling in, they are getting taken care of quickly. And I think what's even more than that is that our outbound call rate was more than 3 times our inbound call rate. We are getting stuff done. So I think, back to the prior authorization process, guys, this is big. This is, when it comes to the clinical portion of the role PBMs play in the healthcare ecosystem, to have a process like this manipulated and to be inaccurate or falsified could truly cause patient harm, which therefore could raise medical spend. I mean, it's a lot more. It involves a lot more than just spend here. We really do have the opportunity as middlemen, sitting as the PBM, to bridge gaps in patient care and be a healthcare resource. So make sure that the PBM partner you are working with is a true healthcare resource and partner to you. So that's all I will say on that. You guys know where to reach us. Partner with us at truescripts.com. Feel free to ask us anything. We'll be happy to hook you up with someone on the team if we don't have the answer. Our clinical pharmacists would love to provide insight as well. But we will look forward to talking to you again soon.